Continuing our rather protracted exploration of diminished 7, I'd now like to show you some more interesting uses for it, including some major and bluesy resolutions. But first, a quick review. Okay, diminished 7 is the harmonic minor scale's seventh chord. So, for example, A harmonic minor. Okay, that's where your diminished 7th chord or arpeggio will be built from, the leading tone, the 7th degree. Here's your root, 2nd, minor or flat 3, 4, 5, minor or flat 6, 7. And then you have your G sharp diminished 7 arpeggio would be. So those notes, G sharp, B, D, and F, all live within the A harmonic minor scale, and they all want to resolve up or down to a chord tone of A minor. So in chord form, you can look at it like this. Okay, that's a fingering of A harmonic minor, and as you can see, those notes of G sharp diminished 7 all fall within, or are native to A harmonic minor. You could do this, a more familiar bar chord. So that's the traditional use of diminished 7, as a leading tone resolution to a minor chord rooted a half step above it. And as you recall from last time, we can also superimpose diminished 7, the 7 diminished 7 chord, over the 5 to create a 5-1 resolution. And that creates for a more intense, satisfying resolution. So you could just play E to A minor. That's the 5-1 in the key of A minor. Nice. Not compelling, but nice. And then you make it E7, dominant 7. Now you have this interval here that wants to contract to that, okay? You add the flat 9 on top. Now it's, oh, thank you, right? So a big difference between just going E to A. Sometimes you want that though. Sometimes you want simple, if it's a country song or something, and you want that honest, no BS harmony. But then you want to get a little more. Please resolve. By the mid-19th century, composers and songwriters alike started to borrow chords from a major keys parallel minor, or a parallel minor keys major. That would be like A major and A minor, not to be confused with relative minor keys. And it created some very bittersweet sounding progressions because, you're in a major key, but then you're using that flat 6 or minor 6. And along with that trend came the use of diminished 7 resolving to major chords, which is a very interesting sound. For example, G sharp diminished 7, instead of going to A minor, you can go to A major. And you have this. It's like you go from dark and kind of tense to very bright and happy sounding. You could also go B diminished 7 to C. Previously we looked at the diminished 7 always going to a minor, right? Yeah, that sounds just as valid, right? And you could use it like we did with the dominant 7 chord as a flat 9. E7 flat 9. Here's the root, the 3rd, the minor or flat 7, and the flat 9. And then instead of going to A minor, go to A major. And likewise, another example would be go to G7 and then resolve to C major. And you think that would want to go to C minor, which it does, but it also wants to go to C major. You can play C major like that. So we have, and then I'm intentionally avoiding the A string here. I need to bar this, but I guess I could do it like that and just strum. So that creates a very bittersweet sound, or bitter than sweet. Another intriguing use for diminished 7 that eventually made its way into the language of blues, jazz, country, pop, R&B, and other so-called folk styles, meaning non-classical, is what's called the common tone diminished resolution. And that is to take a diminished chord, either a diminished triad or diminished seventh chord, and then resolve it to a major or dominant seventh chord based on the same root. For example, B diminished going to B major, or C diminished, C major, or C diminished 7. So that's like sweet, melancholy, sweet. And a classic example of that, guitar-driven thing from the rock catalog, is the intro to Red House, Jimi Hendrix. Now he's tuned down a half step, so it sounds a half step lower. He's playing this B7 chord. Actually, he's only playing the top 3 notes. Bassist Noel Redding is playing a low B, and it sounds a half step lower. So he's playing. He does this little lick, then it goes into a nice slow blues in B. Actually sounds in B flat. So, and he's giving it this nice little like shake, creates like a slide guitar like warble. So you've heard that before. Robert Johnson, the great Robert Johnson, and other Delta blues pioneers and other blues pioneers have used that sound in various keys and positions around the neck. In blues and urban gospel music, songwriters will often use a diminished 7 chord after the 4 chord in a major key, a half step higher, to create what's called a gospel lift. So say if you're in the key of G, it's like, oh, then where does that go? Then that usually goes back to G, but with D in the bass. Kind of a sophisticated bluesy progression, you know? So a great example of that, the great Johnny Winter used it in his cover of the popular Christmas song, Please Be Home for Christmas. And he did something kind of like this, where he's in the key of A, but actually on a recording, I think it's on the album, Hey, Where's Your Brother? His guitar is tuned down a whole step. So it sounds in the key of G, but he's playing it in A because there's little clues you can hear, open strings and stuff. So the song played as if it were in the key of A. So Johnny walks up to the 4 chord D like this. D sharp diminished 7. Another walk up back to the A. So that's kind of a neat way, a fancy way, very melodically interesting way of going. You could use that, remember that voicing where you have the open interval? Or you could just go. See how that resolves? The chromatic climb continues up to E, but then you're actually going to the 1 chord, but it's the 5th of the 1 chord. Okay, play it again. Interestingly, when Johnny's doing that, I think the bass is going contrary motion, you know, diminished chords and arpeggios, you can move them up or down in minor thirds, and it is the very same chord, different inversions, and the contrary motion is a very cool thing in any case. One of my favorite examples of the gospel lift comes from a much less well-known song. It's a urban gospel song, The Battle Is Not Yours, It's the Lord's, beautifully sung by Yolanda Adams. And that song is in the key of D, and I think first at around 242, because of the 4 chord G. G sharp diminished 7. D over A. See how that worked? But it didn't go to an A chord, it went back to the 1, the D, but with the second inversion. So. So that's nice. You continue the chromatic climb. Or it could just go I think it does it the first time. It just goes D over A to A7, back to D. And the second time, beautiful song. It's kind of a sophisticated and very soulful and hauntingly beautiful song. Make a believer out of you.